She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her.
Good morning, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Chelsea Nichols. I'm 27 years old and I live in Oxfordshire in the UK. This is the third video in my life story series, which you can find under the playlists section on my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about child abuse, specifically emotional and physical abuse, which I suffered for 14 years from the age of 4 until the age of 18. Those of you watching this who know me know I am an absolute open book. I could literally sit here for 2 hours talking non-stop about all of this, but we don't have 2 hours to talk non-stop about all of this. So for the last few days, I've had to get myself into a dark place mentally because I've needed to write a list of all of the things that I remember happening to me. I'm not going to be telling you any personal information about the person who abused me. I'm not even going to say who they were in relation to me. I'm also not going to say their gender. So I'm going to refer to them as them, the person, something along those lines. But I just think it's the right thing to do to not say anything about the person, whether they deserve that or not. I just think it's the right thing to do to not. So one of my first memories is force feeding. And this person came into my life when I was approximately 4 years old. We didn't live in that flat for a long time, but I remember the force feeding happening in that flat. So it has to have started pretty immediately. I remember either not liking the food or not wanting the food, and this person would come over and put the food onto the fork or the spoon and literally force it into my mouth. If I was keeping my mouth closed, then they would squeeze my nose so that I have to open my mouth to breathe, and then they would put it in my mouth. I could actually feel it touching my throat. If anything came back up and out, then they would put it back in my mouth. Another memory that I have, and this is actually something that happened all the way through my life. So as a child, a teenager, this happened all the way through, and that was smacking. Now, I was not a naughty child, and I want to make that very, very clear that I was not a naughty child. Even if I was a naughty child, though, it doesn't mean that any of what happened to me is acceptable, because it is not acceptable at all. There are other ways to discipline, especially things like, gentle parenting. I want to do gentle parenting when I have children of my own, but this person would accuse me of doing things like accusing me of lying about homework. So let's take the homework, for example. If they accused me of not doing my homework and I said, I have done my homework, they would then say, now you're back chatting. And I'd be like, but I'm not back chatting. I'm saying that I've done my homework, and they say, now you're back chatting. And then I would get smacked. I kind of think that this person actually enjoyed hurting me and almost took pleasure in hurting me, that they would then make these accusations knowing that I'm gonna say that I haven't done it, because then they can accuse me of backchatting and being gobby, and then they have a reason to hurt me. I'm talking about a smack on bare skin, on my face and on my bum. Most of the time it was on my face. So this person would pin me up against a wall with their hand around my neck to keep me in place, and then they would smack me around my face. And I'm not talking 1 time or 2 times, I'm talking 8 times, 10 times, 12 times. I actually distinctively remember being smacked 12 times around my face. If I put my arm up to protect myself, they would grab my wrist and they would start to twist my wrist and say, obviously they did actually swear, I'm trying to keep this PG, but they'd be like, I'll break your effing wrist. Go on, fight me, go on, hit me. I'm like, ah. I would be crying, near enough screaming, but this person would just be basically enjoying what they're doing. I would also be smacked on my bum, so just as many times, pants down, knickers down, smacked on my bare bum. I also remember this person encouraging somebody else in my family to hit me with a belt. If this person was to only want to hurt me once, hit me once, this person would be like, no, that's not enough, keep going, do you know what I mean? My brother, who is 7 years older than me, actually hated me growing up, absolutely hated me with a passion, and he would do anything he could to hit me. I remember a time when he stood on the stairs and jumped off the stairs just so that he was high enough that he could punch me in the face. He had a toy Star Wars lightsaber that he used to whack me with. He also used to chase me with spiders and crane flies, knowing full well that I was absolutely terrified of them. And this person would just encourage the behaviour and laugh. I would be called a baby, a wimp. Another few things that happened, more like not as often. So this person bit me on my head. They were giving me French plaits in my hair and I wasn't holding a piece of hair properly, so they bit my head. This person sprayed hairspray in my eye. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but I do think it was an accident. However, instead of apologising, they just laughed. This person threw my brother's potty at my head when he was toilet training. I don't know what it was for. I just remember them throwing a potty at my head. Obviously I ducked, it didn't actually hit me. This person also whipped me with a tea towel. Now what happened was one of my friends got off the school bus and went home and their mum wasn't there, and she didn't want to obviously be stood outside on her own. I didn't want her to be stood outside on her own, so I told her to come home with me. So she came back with me and was waiting up in my bedroom whilst I was stood in the kitchen, and this person was basically having a go at me for bringing somebody home without asking, and the person grabbed a tea towel, span it around and then whipped me with it, like around my face. But my friend had actually come down onto the stairs and witnessed it and literally ran out of the house crying because she had just witnessed me being hit. Now I do want to say that this person washed my hair for me until I was like 16, because they kept saying that I couldn't wash my hair properly and that I used too much shampoo and conditioner. So I would be stood in the bath naked and I would be bent over so that they can wash my hair. Other times I wouldn't necessarily be naked in the bath. I would like be clothed and I'm just like leaning over the bath. But when they were in a mood with me, as I was saying, they would make the water like really cold so that I was crying because it was cold, and then they would do the complete opposite, so they would then change it to hot, so now I'm crying because it's burning me, and then because I'm crying again, they would just say, oh, I'm a spoilt brat or I'm an ungrateful bitch, and they would turn the shower off so that I then can't wash. Other things they would do is when I'm actually in the shower, again if they're just in some mood with me for whatever reason, I could be in the shower and then the shower would be switched off from the switch on the wall outside the bathroom. So I'm then just stood there with shampoo or conditioner on my hair or shower gel on my body. And I would want to get out, but I would know that if I went out, I'd probably get hit. So I would just stand there and cry. As I got older, the physical abuse did start to die down a bit. But then it became more about the emotional abuse and the control. So this person controlled the way that my hair was cut. So because I had a round face, they believed that a bob suited my facial shape, which is true. I do hold my hands up, it is true. But I didn't like the bob. And when I would go and get my hair cut, the hairdresser would look at me and ask me what it is that I wanted done. And I would immediately look at this person because I knew that they are supposed to have the say, not me. So they would then say what I could have with my hair. This person would also only allow me to have blonde hair, and I'm talking like bleach blonde hair. I went through times where like I wanted to have brown hair and go a little bit darker, and they would just say no, it's not going to suit you because you've got pale skin, like you'll look stupid. So when I was 18 and I had removed myself from that situation, I actually dyed my hair brown, and I kept my hair brown for 8 years. I've only gone blonde last year. I kept my hair brown for 8 years because I thought if I went back blonde, I was giving that person what they wanted. I started wearing makeup when I was about 12 years old, and I was wearing the cheap makeup Dream Matte Mousse foundation, which actually caused me to have spots. But because I then had spots, I didn't want to not wear makeup. And this person just, as and when they wanted, willy-nilly would take out my makeup so that I couldn't wear my makeup. Another thing that they would do is when we went clothes shopping, they would kind of choose what clothes they wanted me to have. And if I didn't like something that they picked, I would be called a spoiled brat, an ungrateful bitch. And this actually happened quite a lot over the 14 years. Another thing is I didn't wear fake tan, but I hated my pale skin. I actually to this day hate my pale skin. My arms I can deal with, my legs awful. In the summer, you will not catch me in shorts, skirts, dresses, play suits, unless I got fake tan on. But I remember this time when we were going to go for a family photo shoot and I was going to be wearing a dress. But we were going to be walking from the house to the other end of the village and I wanted to wear see-through tights. They're not like, they're see-through, but they kind of give you a bit of like a tan tinge. I don't know if you get what I mean. But this person like refused to let me wear see-through tights and I had to walk from the house to the other end of the village feeling embarrassed, humiliated, self-conscious, completely unconfident, and I was just crying my eyes out the whole way. If this person was in a mood with me, they would refuse to do my washing. So they'd be like, if you want your clothes washed, you got to do it yourself. I would then go to wash my clothes and they'd be like, no, you're not using the washing machine. That's my washing machine. You didn't buy it, did you? You didn't buy the washing up stuff, did you? You can wash it by hand, knowing full well that I didn't know how to do that. I was constantly told that I was going to grow old with cats because nobody was going to love me. I was fat, I was ugly. This was said to me very, very regularly. I do actually have a picture that I want to insert of me, but it's a picture of me at a wedding stood side on, and as you can tell by my arms, I have quite thin arms, but I have a very flat tummy, or had, should I say, because I don't now, but I had a very, 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 very flat tummy. There is another picture that I've got of me as a child. I was at my mum's house and I was holding her guinea pig and she had taken a picture of me. Now, you're not going to be able to see that clearly because, like, there's a guinea pig on me, but you can tell by my arms, like, I'm not fat. This person created my Facebook account and had my password to my Facebook account and would talk to my friends pretending to be me. I didn't have my password until I was 18 when I had removed myself from the situation. And then I think about a year or 2 years later, for some reason I couldn't get into that account anymore, so I had to create a new account. I also didn't have my bank card until I was 18. Now, I had my first job when I was 14 years old. I was working part-time in a chip shop and this person would literally sit there when I got paid, knowing I'd got paid, just hand out, waiting for me to give them my money. I didn't have my bank card until I was 18 when I said, you know, I'm 18, I'm an adult, I need to have my own bank card, and they just threw it at me. This person would check my phone when I was asleep. I would hear them. When I had my first boyfriend, when I was 16 years old, when I was at work, this person was meeting up with my boyfriend, checking in on Facebook at like Pizza Hut and going out for a dog walk. This person didn't walk the dogs, but they were going out for a dog walk apparently with my boyfriend. When he broke up with me, he didn't actually tell me. He told that person. When they found out that I had been watching porn, instead of having a sit-down conversation about it, this person just told the whole family and laughed and just basically humiliated me for it. This person had failed their driving test like 2 or 3 times. When I passed my driving test first time, I was obviously excited about it, like I was ecstatic, and they opened the door. I said, you know, I passed, and there was absolutely no congratulations, absolutely nothing. They just told me, don't be a show off. When I had my first car accident in my first year of driving, this person did actually support me at first, but then later on, along with their family, was like, told you you'd have your first car accident in your first year, didn't I? Which just didn't need to be said, did it? Also, when I was 16 years old, there was a guy who was 23 years old who we had known growing up like as children. But whilst I was like a teenager and coming into sort of adulthood, I hadn't spoken to this guy. And one day this person said to me, you're going somewhere this evening. And I wanted to know where I was going, but they wouldn't tell me. They just told me to get dressed and that I was going. And at 16 years old, this person dropped me off at this 23-year-old guy's house who had a baby girl from a previous relationship. I had no idea I was even going there, and they just dropped me off. And I was just sat in his house with him like, why am I here? And then it happened a second time and it got to like 10 o'clock at night. It was pitch black outside and I just felt uncomfortable. I didn't know why I was there. So I called a guy that I knew and asked him to come and pick me up. But when I left the house, this 23-year-old guy called my dad and was like, she's left. When I got home, my dad was stood there accusing me of being a slag, a slut, telling me that I was going to sleep with the person who I got to pick me up. He's like, you're a slag, you're a slut. My dad don't talk to me like that. Like, my dad don't call me those things. So I knew where he'd got that from. And my dad actually smacked me around the face, which my dad don't smack me around the face unless he's told that he's got to do it. But this person was just sat there in the background laughing, thinking it was absolutely hilarious. When I got to the age of 18 and I was an adult, it got to a point where I needed to remove myself from the situation. But I stayed there because my brother, who is 7 years younger than me, he was at the time 11 years old, starting his first year at secondary school. I stayed for him. But every day, without fail, for about 2 or 3 weeks, this person, when I got home from work, would say to me, I don't want you here. You're not welcome here. And I'd be like, but I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't care. I don't care if you're homeless. I don't care if you're on the streets. I don't care. Don't want you here. I don't want you here. F off. F off. And would just swear at me all the time. So after hearing that every day for 2 or 3 weeks, I got the picture. I packed my stuff. And I arranged for other family to come and wait round the corner whilst I loaded my stuff into their car. But my brother then came downstairs, was kind of confused because he didn't understand why I was packing my stuff, why I was going, and I didn't know how to explain anything to him. So I basically said to him, look, I'm not wanted here. They don't want me here. He didn't cry, but I think he was close to crying. I think it was more just confusion. But, you know, I said to him, I love you, and I always will love you. But the sad thing now is that me and my brother don't have a great relationship at all. He's 20 years old, and this year he has not spoken to me. He reads my messages, doesn't reply to me. I even sent him voice notes, absolutely crying my eyes out, bawling my heart out. I felt like I almost didn't have a brother anymore, and I didn't understand what I'd said wrong or done wrong. He listened to my voice notes and didn't reply to me. I don't know what I've said wrong, I don't know what I've done wrong, but we don't have a great relationship now. My brother did experience abuse as well, but that's not my place to say. Like, I'm not in a position to talk about it. My biggest memory is a time when my brother was crying and screaming, and all I was doing was counting how many times he had been smacked. He had been pinned down on his tummy with his trousers down and pants down, and he had been smacked on his bare bum 16 times. 16 times. Bearing in mind he was already crying by the second smack and then probably screaming by the fifth smack, but it just kept going and going and going and going and going. So what I want you to do now is I want you to think about everything that I have just said, the emotional abuse, the physical abuse, and I want you to imagine it happening to you weekly, or let's say for the purposes of this video, fortnightly. If you calculate that, right, there are 52 weeks in a year. Divide that by 2 because we're talking about a fortnightly basis here. That's 26 times by 14, which is 14 years that I suffered abuse. All of those things happened to me approximately 364 times. So 364 times of being smacked around the face or the bum, of being called every name under the sun, fat, ugly, that no one's gonna love me, having my bank card used, my social media used, my phone checked, my hair controlled, my makeup controlled. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about how the child abuse has affected me as an adult. I have not been around this person or their family for 9 years. There have been occasions where they've been like near, but not near enough that I can see them or hear them. And actually, I usually just walk away anyway because I can't stand to hear the voice or see them because I still fear them. So a couple of physical effects One is that I dyed my hair dark brown, near enough black, for 8 years and refused to go back blonde until last year because I thought that that person was getting what they wanted. The second physical thing that has happened as a result of the child abuse is biting my nails. So I've actually been biting my nails since I was like 5. But I still bite my nails now 22 years later. So as you can tell, I have ridiculously short nails. I flinch a lot. Let's say James was taking a bottle of tomato ketchup out the cupboard and it was like a very sudden movement, I would flinch. I also flinch even around children. So sometimes a child could just be sat on my lap and they fling their arms up quickly, or even they're sat next to me and they throw a toy and I will literally flinch and cower. I can't stand watching other kids crying in regards to if they've just been shouted at, or if, you know, sometimes you might see a parent holding their child's wrist quite tightly and the child's crying. I can't stand watching that. It gives me that fear. And it's hard as well because I can see the fear in their eyes. I have a bad relationship with my brother. It used to be okay until this year. I don't know why it's changed. I have nightmares. One of my nightmares is that I hurt the person in the exact same way that they hurt me. Sometimes, not often, I kill them, but I don't always kill them. It tends to be more that I'm just hurting them the way that they're hurting me. I have had a few nightmares where the person talks back to me. I remember this one nightmare where they said to me, "I'm gonna hurt you like I hurt you in real life." I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was sweating. It was pitch black. And all I could see and hear was that. And it felt ridiculously real. I know there are like facts and figures and statistics talking about the percentage of children who become abusers. I would like to think that I am most definitely not going to be like that. Absolutely not. But I do have that fear. Other things that I do is I internalize my emotions. When I'm happy, but any emotions like jealousy and anger, I actually keep inside of me, so I internalize those emotions. I have a ridiculously strong fear of rejection, being rejected, being not liked. Sometimes I will cut people off as self-preservation. So over the last couple of years, I have actually cut 2 friends off that are now no longer my friends. One, because I didn't like the way she spoke to me, and then she did it a few more times and I just decided I didn't want to know. And then the second is because for some reason we kind of drifted apart a bit. We didn't talk as much, we didn't see each other as much, and I think I cut her off maybe so that she wouldn't cut me off first. Reassurance in regards to like social situations, so I constantly need to know that everybody there actually wants me there and that they like me, and James will have to tell me this like several times before I actually go. I can adapt to different personalities, so I can adapt if somebody's upset or angry or happy or worried. Like I can just adapt to that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Attention seeking, but this is not the kind of attention seeking that you're thinking. It's more about like jealousy and anger. So for example, if I was working in an office and everybody likes me there, but there's all of a sudden a new member of staff, so everyone is naturally gravitating to the new member of staff because they want to know more about them, so they're not talking to me as much. I will then feel jealous and I will then feel angry that that person is now getting everybody talking to them and interested in them. But it's not because I'm not getting attention as such. It's not like negative attention. It's because I'm worried that now nobody's interested in me anymore. Like nobody cares about me anymore. It comes from that fear of rejection again. But the jealousy and the anger is internalized. So the most I will probably do is roll my eyes when somebody talks to them. I am a people pleaser. So I will do anything and everything to please people. And that does mean that sometimes I might kind of break the rules as such, or I might make things like more acceptable than they're supposed to be. I don't like conflict. I don't like any confrontation. It makes me cry. Sometimes I'm not even trying to cry, but it just happens. It's like my body reacts to that. I like control. over anything and everything. So James is not allowed to put the towels back after he's had a shower. James is not allowed to make the bed. James is not allowed to do the dishes. James is not allowed to clean. James is basically not allowed to do anything because he doesn't do it the right way. But that is not true, because he does do it the right way. It's just not my way, and I want it to be my way. So I kind of like plans, details. If I'm going somewhere, I want to know where, when, what time, how am I getting there, how am I getting back, who's going, who's not going, things like that. I actually am scared of childbirth. I'm not even preggers, like I'm nowhere near preggers, but I am scared of childbirth. Not because of the pain, but because I can't control the day, the time. Over the last few months, I have been having assessment appointments with complex needs, and after 4 assessment appointments, I have been diagnosed with 6 personality disorders. I am going to go into that in more detail in other videos to come though. But what I will say now is that it has been linked to my childhood. So my actual childhood of being emotionally and physically abused, etc, 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 has caused my personality disorders. I was misdiagnosed for 9 years. I was just diagnosed with anxiety and OCD when I was 18. OCD is actually a thing that I do have though, but it turns out that I've been misdiagnosed for 9 years. So I'm at a point now where I've got my diagnosis, but I'm just waiting to find out what therapy I'm going to be put on, how often the therapy is going to be, and that kind of thing. What I'm going to do is actually create another series on my playlists, and I'm going to call it something like mental health or personality disorders, and I'm going to do individual videos talking about each individual personality disorder that I have, talking about the symptoms, what symptoms I have, what it's like living with it, blah 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 blah. I have to admit, I'm quite surprised I didn't get emotional in this video, because I did like a trial film a couple hours ago and I did get emotional, but maybe it's because now that I am actually filming it, I've kind of just got myself into the zone. So that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her. There must be something about her features. You'll find her beauty goes much deeper once you get to meet her.